now in the heat of the Nebraska men's basketball season, 19-0, as we were recording this here today. I get the chance to talk to Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News and Fox Sports. And Husker fans probably know him best for the guy who's pushing very, very hard to keep the Huskers on a one line. Mike, how are we doing?
I'm doing very well. I hope they know me a little bit from 17 seasons at Big Ten Network, and they've been involved in, I think, 14 of those, maybe 15. I've been watching Huskers basketball for a while, and have long known of the power of Pinnacle Bank, and have worked with former Husker coach Tim Miles on our BTN broadcast. I certainly am aware well of what Nebraska basketball is capable of.
So then you obviously know the story just as well as many fans do of how hard it has been to be a Husker basketball fan over the years. And this feels like a dream, I think, for most people that have followed Nebraska for any length of time. Explain what you're seeing from your vantage point when it comes to the Fred Hoiberg bunch and how good they're doing right now.
Well, I think the first ingredient of their success this year was the primary ingredient of their miss last year, which was Rink Mast's injury, which was calamitous for the 24-25 team. It cost them, no doubt, an NCAA tournament bid a year ago, but him returning gave them a chance to, I believe, be significantly better. I think Rink is a better player from having had that year to work on his game, to work on his understanding of the game, to learn more about basketball than he already knew because he had a year to do not much else but train his upper body and rehab his injury and to learn the game. And that coming back this season has been an enormous boost for Nebraska. Getting Jamarcus Lawrence to return was huge. Braden Frager's talent, right there in Lincoln, widely overlooked by recruiting analysts, but one of the best freshmen in the country. Not at the very level of AJ DeBonsa and that player, that level of players, but right there in the mix of the best 15, 20 freshmen in the country. And you have a terrific point guard in Sam Hoiberg who knows how to play, who knows when to make which play. He's phenomenal at, okay, they're backing off me. They're worried about Price Sanford. They're worried about Rink. I'm wide open. I'm going to make this. He just does so many things. He's a phenomenal defensive player, great rebounder. I can't say enough good things about what he's brought. It's a deep, talented team, and one that, because it's Nebraska, many around the country are very averse to accepting. But this team is really good. The fact they're a one seed now is what they've done, but I still think there's a lot more that they can do.
And with that, and we just talked about Braden Frager. Braden Frager spraining an ankle here just the other night against Washington. Fortunately for Husker fans and for him, it's no worse, hopefully, than a sprained ankle. They've got Minnesota on the road on Saturday, then the big one next week at Michigan. What are your thoughts, especially going into that Michigan game?
Yeah, it's a tough stretch. Minnesota's played very well at the barn and pushed a lot of teams and been frustrated in most of those. So you know they're really eager to get that one that will validate their growth. It happened last year, I believe, against Michigan. They got one, and it invigorated them, even though didn't ultimately lead the Gophers to any postseason success. But it got them going and got them excited and gave them a night to celebrate. So you have to watch out for that. They have played well enough to beat Nebraska at home. And the fact that that Michigan game is lurking just a few days later is a real challenge for the Huskers to focus on. Remember, how did you get to this point? By beating every team that was in front of you. And that's going to be very important in the Gophers game. The game against Michigan is going to be very difficult regardless of Saturday's outcome. And they're going to have to be ready for the most physically powerful front court in the country. And I think they're going to have to do a lot of their damage in the backcourt. I think Sam, I mentioned before, the great defense that he plays. I think he's going to have to be really disruptive and really sturdy. And he's been both of those in a lot of games. But I think he's going to have one of his great games in order for them to prevail against Michigan.
What do you say to a Husker fan who went through a whole bunch of stuff in the past few decades and is just still nervous and they're waiting for that shoe to drop and they're like, this team's really good at 19-0, but man, something's just going to happen. Like we've never won an NCAA tournament game and all that stuff. What do you tell them about this team and why it's different?
Well, I can't promise you that there won't be something that happens that would destroy or damage what they have. Injuries happen to a lot of teams. It's unfortunate. Uh, as you mentioned, Braden Frager, very fortunately, is on a day-to-day ankle injury. Could have been worse, and I don't want that to happen to this team. I like this team. I want them to do their best. But as a whole group, uh, look, they're not probably going undefeated. The league is great. They're going to present significant challenges to the Huskers in February and early March, and then again in the Big Ten tournament. So it's probably not going to happen. Almost certainly not going to happen. But that doesn't mean that this team is headed for any sort of near-term disaster. If they're whole, they are one of the better teams in the league. And that's a league that includes Purdue, which is a one-seed candidate, Michigan, which is a one-seed candidate, Michigan State, which at minimum is a two-seed candidate. And they are one of those teams. They are Illinois, I should mention as well, another team that you would call at least a two-seed candidate. They are one of those teams. They are not those 4-0 Nebraska. No, they are one of those teams. The fact that they have, if you look at, there's a analytics website that those of us who really cover the game and some who are really invested in the game as fans will follow. It's called kenpom.com. Ken Pomeroy, a statistician who came up with the concept. He didn't come up with the concept, but he spread the gospel of offensive and defensive efficiency. How many points per possession are you allowing? How many are you scoring yourself? And the fact that this team, which is known for its shooting ability with Price and Rink and Braden and Sam and Jamarcus, being able to put 5 shooters on the floor at once. I mean, 5 legit, all shooting better than 35% players on the floor at once. They're known for that, but they're better defensively in terms of their efficiency. This is a real team. I don't know what they'll end up being seeded. I haven't studied the schedule. I know what's coming in the next week, but I haven't studied deep into February to see where they might go. But this is a top 5 Big Ten team. If you're top 5 in this year, you're one of the best teams in the country.
And I know you've made that case, nationally known to folks that have taken a while to get Nebraska up to that 2 or that 1 where you've had them for quite some time because you believe in this basketball team and know how good they really are. So what are your thoughts on the other prognosticators that are starting to come around to bringing them up to that 2 or that 1 line?
Yeah, I think the resistance, what bothers me about the resistance is that they look at non-conference strength of schedule. Well, I mean, you're like going to hurt yourself. You're trying so hard if you're looking at non-conference strength of schedule for an undefeated power conference team. You're undefeated in the Big Ten, and that's what the way we're all basically charged to do this as bracket analysts is what would the bracket be if today were Selection Sunday? That's how we do it. And if you're an undefeated, this deep into the season, an undefeated power conference team, you're going to be a 1 seed. There's no way an undefeated team in the Big Ten is not going to be a 1 seed. So why are you giving me non-conference strength of schedule? You're trying way too hard. And look, the schedule for Nebraska didn't turn out great. Creighton had some injuries, not having the year they imagined. Kansas State, it's not fully come together. But they did try to challenge themselves. And then the other element of it is that a lot of their bye games, the games that they don't have to play a road game in return in the contract, or 300 plus. The reality is this. If you're a significant power conference team and you play teams in the 300s, only one thing's going to happen 99.99% of the time. You're going to win. If you're one of those teams and you play a team in the 200s, 99.99% of the time, you're going to win. There's no difference. It's the same. It just changes your computer rating a little bit. And yeah, that's why a lot of teams will spend a little bit extra on a team that's a little bit better so that their computer ranking looks better. Nebraska either couldn't or didn't, but I don't think you should be punished for that when you've gone on the road and you've won at Indiana, you've won at Illinois, you've won at Ohio State. That's three what we call quad 1A road wins. Quad 1A is the most difficult game to win. It's the separator between the games that are hard to win and the very most difficult. And those three quad 1A victories are more than any other team in the net top 10 owns at this point. Eventually, they may be superseded, but right now, nobody's matched that.
And the other stuff I know Husker fans are looking at is hoping to get that double bye in the Big Ten tournament. And quite frankly, from a logistics standpoint, getting to the NCAA tournament and hopefully playing in an Oklahoma City or St. Louis just to be able to drive there rather than catching a flight to Portland or Buffalo. But if they keep winning, that will likely happen, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you stay at the 1 or 2 line, if you can do that, and again, like you said the getting to the top four in the league. Well, as I said, there are five terrific teams, so somebody is going to have to play the extra game, and that's the challenge. And as well, if you fall down to the 4 line, say in the bracket, then you're probably going wherever nobody wants to go. So the only way you get to go to St. Louis, say, is if none of the other high seeds wanted that. Well, if Illinois were to beat you, obviously they'd want it. It's even closer to them than it is to the Huskers. So yeah, you want to stay ahead of those teams in the Midwest in your league. So it's sort of a little bit like Braden Smith's pursuit of the assist record. It benefits him in that individual pursuit for the team to continue winning because more games means more opportunities for assists. And it's the same for the Huskers. If you compete against these other Big Ten teams and succeed against them, then you knock them down a little bit in the order of teams that want to get to those preferred destinations in regards to March Madness.
What are your thoughts on the comparison? I know Nebraska media has done a lot of this of Nebraska football is to Indiana basketball, and Nebraska basketball is to Indiana football because they have similarities. I mean, I'm not saying Nebraska's going to win the national title, but they have that similar feel where Indiana football was, never the belle of the ball, and neither was Nebraska basketball, and now it's kind of almost switched.
Yes.
So your thoughts on that?
It is an interesting coincidence, without a doubt. And obviously, the Huskers would love to, at this stage, would love for that to come to fruition because that means Monday night in Indianapolis, they're holding up a trophy, and that would be staggering. But there are those similarities. But I think the similarity that exists the most, especially now, is the skepticism. The Indiana faced skepticism all through the first season of their turnaround, all the way with the ESPN analysts who handled their Notre Dame game, basically saying they had no business being in the game, as well as when they started this year, even though they brought back a significant number of those players and added some transfer portal acquisitions this year, they still were ranked outside the top 20 in the preseason AP poll and weren't acknowledged as what they ultimately were, even after they defeated a top 10. They didn't have any trouble recognizing Illinois, by the way. Illinois was ninth in the country when they went and played the Hoosiers and lost 63-10. And even that didn't get in the end into the top 10. So I see a lot of the same similarities in that degree of skepticism that I guess it comes down to brand until you absolutely stick a victory in the biggest games down the public's throat, they're not going to buy it.
And as you know, unlike every other Power Four team, Nebraska is the only one to never win an NCAA tournament game. So that's hanging over their head too.
Yeah, and that's why the higher you get on the bracket, you can get to a 1, you can get to a 2. As we know now, they aren't layups. You still have to win the game. We've seen 2 16s take down 2 1s, and there is a longer list of 15s that have taken down 2s. But it is a much less demanding game than if you're a 4 and have to play a 13. There's some very good 13s on my bracket, Murray State teams like that in that neighborhood. So if you can get to the top of the bracket, you could get that done, that transacted a little bit more easily, and then go on about the business of okay, that's over. We don't have to worry about hearing that anymore. Let's just go hoop. And I think that would really be good for the Huskers.
100% agree. Mike DeCourcy, I want to make sure, hopefully I reach out to you again later on in the season when we get closer to March, and maybe we can do this again as long as Nebraska is still flying high.
It would be my pleasure on both fronts to do it and for them to be still flying high.
And it's my pleasure to talk to a fellow Point Park alum from downtown Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That made this even more exciting for me.
Oh, it's great when I bump into people who are fellow pioneers. I live in Pittsburgh now, and my wife does some work with the university, and it's a really cool place. I will tell you this: when I went there, it was two buildings, and it has grown up so much now. And I kind of wish I were 18 again, so I could go to this Point Park.
Yeah, I think I got the tail end of my time there would have been at the new studio. Maybe that's even the old studio now. I don't even know. TV. I mean, they've taken over the entire like couple blocks down there.
Yes,
Lawrence Hall was where I called home for 4 years. So
yes.
yeah, and now I need to my life's goal now. You've got your name on an award. We've got Bob Pompiani and Greg Brown. So now I've got to try to climb that ladder too.
Sounds good to me.
Mike DeCourcy, Sporting News, Fox Sports, all things knowing Nebraska basketball. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to do it.